Hi, I'm Nassya and welcome to my couch. For my first episode, I wanted to do a review of this year, but then I thought, why talk about all the crazy things that have happened and relive the painful memories? So instead, let's talk about all the crazy things you did not know have happened. Brexit. They say that the British leave without saying goodbye, but in this case, they keep saying goodbye without actually leaving. Mostly because they don't know how to. Literally, they cannot agree on the borders, they cannot agree on timeline or anything. And you know, it kind of pleases me as an American that for all the jokes about how dumb we are as a people, the British came in and were like, hey, hold my beer. The next day, after 52% of the United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union, the top 2 search question was,
what is the EU?
Now the poor Scots, who had voted themselves in their own referendum to remain in the United Kingdom, partially because they wanted to stay in the European Union, have nothing else to do other than maybe binge on rewatches of Braveheart. Freedom! Freedom! I'm really sorry, guys. In any case, don't worry, because the stupidity is always here to save the day. And while the politicians are scrambling to finalize possible trade deals, somebody made a tiny rounding arrow that can possibly now derail the whole situation. So the Britain might not actually be able to finalize their divorce over some pocket change of 650 million euros. But speaking of the people who broke up with the British first, let's talk about India. Earlier this year, in what could only be described as a plot created by a Hollywood producer with too much cocaine in his system, a gang of monkeys decided to roleplay Mission Impossible and steal a bunch of COVID-19 samples from a lab technician in India. Now, it would be reasonable to fear that this theft would result in an uncontrollable spread of the virus across the region. But turns out, Indian monkeys are much more conscientious about spreading deadly viruses than American humans are. So, while Americans continue to protest the great sacrifice of covering their nose and mouths with a piece of cloth, the Indian monkeys decided to leave the vials behind intact and go back into the jungle further away from us. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if they're questioning Darwin, like,
hold on, are you saying those guys evolved from us?
I think that 2020 has been pretty unique. But I've seen a lot of people compare the current situation to the 1930s, the time leading up to World War II. And honestly, I don't know that I agree. For example, in 1930s, there was an economic depression and high levels of unemployment that led to a lot of people becoming radicalized. Also in 1930s, government took control of women's lives in a way that is appalling. For example, there were forced sterilizations happening in the US hospitals on poor women. There was a huge fight about civil rights and the government trying to deport non-white minorities as well as prevent others from coming in. Okay, so actually, maybe I see that there is a resemblance, but Hitler had supporters with a hideous name. The brown shirts. Yuck. President Trump has supporters with way cooler name. The brown shirts were members of an early Nazi militia who really helped Adolf Hitler come to power. The name derived from the fact that they wore brown shirts as opposed to Mussolini's supporters in Italy who wore black shirts. Now, I don't mean to stereotype, but leave it to the Europeans to focus their entire fascist movements around fashion outfits. For those who don't know, Proud Boys are not members of a gay pride organizing committee, although gay Twitter is trying to fight them on the hashtags. They're actually members of a US hate group. Although, to be honest, they pretend to not like their racist friends that much. Listen, I don't want to start shit with the other guys, but Proud Boys are really not like the other white supremacists. We're progressive. I mean, do we want the Mexicans to go back? Absolutely. Build the wall. If the black people wanted to leave and go back to Africa, well, their choice. The Jews too. Sayonara, baby. But the most important thing is, I want every red-blooded white American male to be out and proud, just like me. Then again, Proud Boys also like to make fashion statements and support Chinese manufacturing with their MAGA hats. Side note, actually, this has been debunked as a myth. The official Make America Great Again hats are in fact manufactured in the United States. The hats manufactured in China are the knockoff hats. Although I guess the people who buy them are still President Trump supporters. Oh, never mind. Now, of course, it's super easy to dismiss Proud Boys and other militias as delusional dimwits. But make no mistake, radicalized white men are the biggest terror threat to the United States and its democracy. This past week, the FBI foiled a plan by 6 members of a Michigan militia group to abduct the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. And you know who replaced the brown shirts in Germany? The SS. But it's not only the US situation that's creating a sense of deja vu. Polish troops entered the Czech territory and took up a position near a chapel. We still actually don't know what happened. I mean, maybe they were just there to offer thoughts and prayers, just the way our Congress always does whenever there's a school shooting.
Our thoughts and prayers.
Our thoughts and prayers are with everybody involved.
Thoughts and prayers.
And their families.
all harm in Sutherland Springs.
And we are here for you.
Thoughts and prayers with the families impacted.
And just like the politicians concerned about the safety of American children, what was essentially an invasion ended anticlimactically, with no discernible effect.
Prayers make a difference.
Although the number of school shootings did go down this year, mostly because there's barely any schooling. So maybe the government's failure to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, thus extending the lockdown for months, was actually a very smart plan all along to curb the gun deaths without actually alienating the NRA. I mean, the 7.5 million sick people and 200,000 deaths being the unfortunate side effect. But back to the Czech-Polish real-life game of risks. If you're wondering why you haven't heard about this story in the news, well, the US media, fake news they may be according to the president's multiple press secretaries, have actually had their hands full. Also, whether it was an honest mistake or a foolish plan, the Czechs and the Poles have decided to keep it old school and not talk about it. Just like my family doesn't talk about that time my uncle thought it was a smarter choice to chug a bottle of vodka before his flight as opposed to giving up to the airport security. What's up, Uncle Stiopa? But here in America, we believe that a delicate approach to tough situations is for snowflakes. Glorifying stupidity is what we do and what we do well. So Mark and Patricia McCloskey decided to take attitude into stratosphere by waving semi-automatic weapons at peaceful protesters who were not even on their lawn. Admittedly, they had crazy demands, like asking the police to stop shooting innocent people. The McCloskeys, who have recently been indicted on a number of charges, including tampering with the guns, I'm sure see themselves as the glamorous modern-day Bonnie and Clyde. And the Republican Party must agree because they invited them to speak at the National Convention. But what nobody bothered to tell them is that the real Bonnie and Clyde were actually terrible at their jobs. They severely exaggerated how much money they actually made from robbing. And also, they became famous only because of the staged photos that were propagated by the media. Then again, I actually can see how that would appeal to a party led by Donald J. Trump. 2020 has been so strange that aliens were confirmed and nobody cared. My entire life, Hollywood has prepared me for every type of alien encounter. From friendly aliens to mean aliens to furry aliens to bold aliens to that shitty car your ex sold for $200 to you, possibly being an alien. We've been collectively seen in Aerosmith for no good reason for the past 20 years, dreaming of the outer space adventures. And now the Pentagon actually confirms the existence of the UFOs in April, and maybe like 3 people cared, and 2 of them wear tinfoil hats. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Close my eyes. I don't wanna fall asleep 'cause Last month, although I have always assumed that I live in the capitalist capital of the world, the Big Apple, according to the government, I actually have been living among granola crunching anarchists. And I don't even know what to do about this. So just in case, I ordered a bunch of Karl Marx books on Amazon. You know, just in case. With all that has happened, let's just say that I may or may not have started looking for bunkers to rent for the next 5 to 10 years. And fun fact, they only seem to be available in Moscow. Now, the travel is restricted, but also then I'd have to go back to a country continuously run by Vladimir Putin for the past 30 years, admittedly from a country run by Putin for the past 4 years, but only unofficially, and mostly through memos relating to $400 million of debt. So yes, this year has been crazy, and it doesn't seem like whatever normal is supposed to be is coming back anytime soon. But honestly, I'm sick and tired of being sad and confused and disoriented, so I decided to start this channel to talk things through, to take on heavy subjects with a lighter touch. In a year where we all need connection probably more than ever, but really struggle to find it, think of me as your smart and charming cousin who has the annoying habit of fact-checking the conversations. Think of me as that family member who always picks up and reads the operational manual right before the IKEA furniture assembly turns out in a full-out family war. This is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you tune in for the next episode. In the meantime, chin up and don't despair.